This week, new data released by the Anti-Defamation League shows a nationwide increase in white supremacist propaganda in 2022, with Massachusetts ranking second highest in the nation. Western Mass News reporter Matt Price takes a closer look.
The Commonwealth is such a diverse place, all the way from here in Western Massachusetts to the Boston area, that you wouldn't, find these sort of things on a regular basis.
The Jewish Federation of Western Mass's donor impact officer, Bobby Neymark, is reacting to the latest hate numbers coming out of the Anti-Defamation League for 2022, showing Massachusetts second to Texas with the highest number of incidents. Taking a closer look at the ADL's hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, terrorism map, we see a breakdown state by state, showing incidents of anti-Semitism and white supremacist propaganda and events. Specifically in Massachusetts, we see in 2022 there were 98 anti-Semitic incidents, 465 reports of white supremacist propaganda, and 24 white supremacist events. The overall numbers boosted by a near doubling of white supremacist propaganda from the year before. Neymark says the Federation is taking action against the rise in hate with its newly formed Jewish Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, which began work in January.
Which is a wonderful initiative from our Jewish Federations in North America network, the national organization for Jewish federations found throughout the country and the world, to be able to make our own Jewish communities more diverse, more welcoming to others who have felt left out in the past.
The Federation's CEO, Nora Gornstein, tells Western Mass News this general topic was brought up at the General Assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America.
We do prize freedom of speech, freedom of expression in the United States, but the question is really, where do we draw that line, and making it very clear to the public in general that that type of hate and oppressive speech is not welcome.
With a background in English literature, Gornstein also says she is worried about the lack of context and how certain topics are taught to young people.
We're preventing children from having the opportunity to learn from those books and realize that they can be critical readers, critical consumers of media.
The Federation hopes their efforts will lead to change in the coming year. In Longmeadow, Matt Price, Western Mass News.